Welcome to the Midlife Shift, juicy conversations to help you thrive after 50.
Everybody wants to live better, wants to look better, wants to stay younger.
If we are talking about the future, there's nothing better you can do than to make sure that you've got some moolah.
I can't stand the whole, oh no, I've got no regrets.
Yeah.
Really? Have you lived a life?
Join us as we shake things up and talk about the things that matter and maybe a few things that don't.
So today we're talking the dollars and cents of financial retirement. How do you get money when work stops? I have money guru Nicole Pedersen-McKinnon and retirement commentator Kaye Fallick here with us today to help us understand the dollars and cents of retirement money. I want to ask Nick first that you've said super should be called free money because not a lot of us really understand what superannuation is, and we might get our statements in the mail, but actually you think if we just called it free money, people might pay more attention to it.
Or at least your fun fund. Do you know what I mean? We've got a massive branding problem here. I mean, what were they thinking? You've got words like salary sacrifice, concessional and non-concessional, Division 296, Division 293. What does it all mean?
Yeah,
literally,
correct.
This is your future. This is your security. This is your success. And yet we sort of largely ignore it. We hope it's ticking away in the background of our busy lives, but it actually needs some love and care to get us there.
Yeah, and especially once you hit 50, right, Kay? So I think for most women are behind the eight ball with super just because we take time out of the workforce, we don't earn as much as men. I've seen a statistic that says we retire with 23% less total balances than men. And it's not just about your balance. It's about a whole range of different things. And hopefully that's what we're going to cover today. But I wanted to ask you, if your superannuation balance could talk to you, what do you think it would say?
I think it would say, look at Moy, look at Moy. I think I'm joined at the hip with Nick here that you can't just let it grow, which it does because it's mandated. Yeah. What you can do is love it, nurture it like the plant behind you, give it some water and some food and allow it to blossom. To do that, you need to read your statement. Apparently 40% of us do not do that, right? We don't open it, let alone
Well, it's also similar kind of, set and forget ostrich approach to, who knows their mortgage interest rate? How many people actually know that mortgage interest rate? But this is the actual future. This is important, this one.
And it's almost as though we've delegated to our employer, oh, well, they have to put it in by law and therefore it's their job. It's not, it's your money. Whether it's your fund 100%. Money or your security money, so important. So look at it, understand it.
And I do think funds are now realising they need to make it a bit more engaging, and they're trying to come up with new ways to get people to at least look at their super balance and open their statement, which is a good start. But one of the other really key things which Nick has written for Citro about is that you can sort of plug things into the Money Smart calculators and so on and just start getting an idea of what your super might mean for you in the future, and then you can tweak things.
And what it means is income. Yep. And doing the sums on how your super will become a retirement income stream really involves understanding compounding it and what inflation might do.
Oh, yeah.
There's another good one, compounding.
Yawn.
But so powerful.
That's what the calculators are for. Hello, digital calculators. Yep. So you don't have to be a mathematician, but you do have to use them.
Absolutely. I think it's about, getting that wrapping your head around the fact that it's going to be a payday.
Yeah.
It's going to be a payday for a long time.
Talk to me about that, though. And I know I've got questions leading us into this because most of us understand this thing called pensions. Not a lot of people, according to some of the studies I've read, even understand that the age pension is still a thing in Australia. So a lot of people don't understand the interplay between the government age pension and a pension they might get from their super fund. Can you talk a little bit about that, Kaye?
Sure. So right now, age over 67,
Correct.
which is age pension age, 65% of people are on a full or part age pension.
Okay. So it's
If you're on a full age pension as a single, it's about 29K. If you're a couple, it's about 44, nearly 45,000.
A year.
It's enough to exist on. It's not a wildlife.
No.
If you're renting, it's a problem.
Yeah.
The other 35% are self-funded, largely speaking. But as people go through retirement, by the time you reach your 80s, 80% are on an age pension because you're spending your super down,
Yep.
which
is what it's designed to do.
Planned to do, and therefore you will have this safety net, which is a pretty good safety net when you look at the rest of the world.
Yep.
On top of that, you get a pension concession card that's worth between $3,000 and $5,000 a year, depending on
Yep.
medicals and so on.
And of course, that's why some people want to qualify for even $1 of
Exactly,
because of that concession card and all those discounts.
to just go over there. And sometimes people do wild things like spending capital to qualify for that
Yes,
thing.
yes,
So
I've seen that too.
again,
It's a balancing act.
It's
But interestingly, and this is a bit geeky, the pensions you can get from your superannuation, they differ as well, right? There's different types of income streams that you can get. And an expert I was talking to last week explained if you want to buy an annuity type stream, which typically on paper looks like a terrible investment, right? It looks, why would I do that?
although that product is evolving rapidly and looking better and better.
And that's what I wanted to dive into, because your super turns into an income stream in some way, shape or form, typically when you reach preservation age, which sounds like you're cryogenically frozen and you're like your wrinkles will freeze and preserve forever from there on in, but they don't.
I was just thinking we should rename everything.
Oh,
just to make it
everything needs a
easy.
rename, like a full rebrand.
You know who named everything? Like people from the ATO,
I
money
know.
suits, accountants,
Actuaries.
No one with a female mindset for, what does that mean? Anyway, that might just be me. But the annuity streams are becoming more innovative, and the trick with them is you can often qualify for even $1 of the age pension if you use them wisely.
Well, they're tax favoured.
Yeah.
And we won't go into the weeds, but they certainly can be used and are often promoted to be used in combination with a small part age pension. So if it helps, maybe we can just think about the word pension.
Yeah.
Age pension, government.
Correct.
Then a retirement income stream from your super after you turn 60, but whenever, it might be when you're 67 or older, which is normally an account-based pension, which is you paying yourself from your savings.
From your super savings specifically, right?
From your super account, moving it from saving mode, accumulation. To spending mode, which people think, oh, I'm going wild. No, you're not. You're drawing down in a judicious fashion enough money to probably top up an age pension. So it's combining a private and a public pension that sustains most retirements. Yeah.
And again, we touched on that super gap. And Nick, I know you've written quite a bit for Citro about some of this. Most people can barely even understand what they spend in a year today. So trying to work out what you're going to spend when you're retired is actually a real mental leap. You're like, well, I don't know, and we don't know what health insurance will cost. We don't know what our housing is going to cost. We don't know if our children might still be bleeding us dry. Like there's a whole bunch of things we don't know. There's a whole bunch of things we don't know. But can you talk to me about if women have like an average or below average balance for their age, and you can check this easily by searching online, if you're in that situation, given that women are already behind the 8 ball, what do you think most women should be looking at to try and live on once they retire?
So there are some standards on this, which is good because we need kind of a ballpark, and you can kind of think yourself whether they're applicable to you. Now, I do need to put the caveat in that they assume that you own your own home.
That's right.
And that you don't have rent. So that's, not only do you need enough money to live on, preferably in retirement. By retirement, you need a fully paid off home to live in. Correct. Those are your dual goals, you know, for that retirement age. That's the holy grail right there. And so these standards that they produce say that a single person needs about $53,000 a year to live on, and a couple needs about $74,000 a year. So if you think about, if you took your sort of housing payments out of the equation, would that cut the mustard? That's for a comfortable retirement. It's not lavish, is the idea, but you know, there's a little bit of travel, there's private health insurance, there's a little bit of shopping. You know, nothing wild, like you say, Kay,
totally nothing
but
wild.
It's a nice life, and you know, below that it drops down to sort of a modest, which is getting more to that pension age, which is not where you want to aim. It's not where you want to target yourself.
Yeah, and I guess that's the interesting challenge with public policy, right? Is in the old days, you'd retire at 60 or 65 and, you know, you'd only live another couple of years, really. But the reality is now we're living a lot longer, and longevity is a much bigger factor in our planning.
You could be retired 30 years. So, you know, it's a big
time, right?
It's a big issue, to save a pot or to have that pot grow enough to sustain you for that in the lifestyle to which you aspire.
And that it's called the ASFA retirement standard, and you can Google it online, and it does explain, there's actually a big breakdown of like how much it budgets for haircuts, how much it budgets for house maintenance.
Yeah, it's literally pharmacy costs. Yeah. What's your streaming each week? Everything laid out for you to go, oh, that's too generous. No, I need more. You know,
I spend more, I spend less, and you can work it out.
It's really, really good.
What's your view on what people should be aiming for?
I'm not a fan of the
ASFA standard.
No, I'm not, because I don't like an assumption that you fully own your own home. When I know the numbers coming out of Rachel Ong's research in WA show us people aged 55 to 59, half of them have a mortgage.
Yeah,
it's
a big issue.
If preservation age is 60, and not everybody's going to retire then, because a lot of people love working. Yeah. So, you know, some will. A lot more people are going into retirement with a mortgage. So currently people are telling me 15. I think it's closer to 20% currently, and we're staring down the barrel of people having not paid off their mortgages. So for me, I'm not a fan of a standard that assumes that it's all cut and dried on the home front. Super Consumers Australia have another standard, which is worth looking at.
Because their standard is a little bit more realistic in that you can decide whether you want to be, I can't remember the exact terms, but it's basically if you want to live a good lifestyle, there's three different levels, whereas ASFA only has comfortable and modest, and comfortable is not always really what a lot of people would say is comfortable. But Super Consumers is a little bit more flexy.
Look, it's probably a bit more grounded in my opinion, and I think it's probably helpful for people to look at both and think what suits where I'm at and how I'm going.
Ultimately, it's such an individual thing, right? Like and the thing to realise as well is that the shape of your spending is going to change over that potential 30 years that I was talking about. So you might go a little crazy when you first retire because you might want, the cruises and the boat or the whatever that you've
pent up
targeted. Whatever you've been targeting your whole life. Well, you save, diligently. But then you're going to probably start to spend less. And what's going to happen, possibly sadly and confrontingly, is that your health costs are going to rise as you spend. So the actual shape and what makes up your spending really is not static. And ASFA does have a post-85 standard as well to kind of reflect which is helpful.
Which adds another dose of realism. But I think to kind of play into your strengths, Nick, a lot of people don't know how much they spend now. And if you 100%. Don't know what it costs you to live, and this is what I tend to come back to the whole time, I'm not sure you can even think about a retirement budget unless, and this isn't to say you must live on a really high budget. Right. This is saying you really do need to do the thing called going into the shed where the monster is. You need to download your debit card, your credit card, have a look at what you spent in the month, what's essential, what's nice to have, what's, God, did I buy those shoes? And figure it out. That's how much I spent. Now, is that sustainable?
Yeah, and you're exactly right, but budgeting is another horrible word, right?
Oh,
I know you
horrible.
love it, Nicole.
And look,
I know.
no one's going to, I'm sorry, but no one's going to forward budget. Do you know what I mean?
Totally,
I mean, to
totally.
your point, Kay,
Yeah.
we struggle to budget now. Do you know what I mean?
So
I
what
mean,
am I
having that
spending now?
ballpark idea
Yeah.
is probably a good thing to broadly target, because of course what we need to know then is what kind of lump sum is going to get us there.
That's right. And that's where the calculators are good ballparkers for
Most
you.
super funds, I think, are more supportive, not because they had the blinding light, but because the government requires them through the retirement income covenant to step up.
Yeah, that's right.
And provide more tools, provide guidance is the word that's being
financial
used.
advice.
As opposed to advice,
Advice is a dirty word.
And to help people understand the triggers that I think there's a trigger at 55 that tells us where am I at with my mortgage, how am I feeling.
I would
60.
even say 50.
Yeah.
I think there's a mental switch that goes off at age 50 where you go, ooh, I can almost taste that money. I need more of it.
I know, but the dangers now when I'm scrolling on my socials or browsing online, there's every ad, and it might just be because of what I do with Citro that I get all these ads.
Yeah.
Everyone's asking me to compare my super, right? And they want me to just instantly go to some online form, enter my details, get a phone call back. And this is actually really alarming because it's scam adjacent, right? Once people know that you've made that inquiry, they're like, oh, hello, you've got money.
Yeah.
And then they can put together other pieces to sort of find you.
And it's not coming from a good place, because a lot of people will tell you when you've got a balance, I would say it shouldn't be as low as 300, 400 or 500,000 in super. People will come at you and say, go for a self-managed super fund.
Absolutely.
And
Which is
really,
a very big step, a self-managed super fund.
big step, costs money to establish, costs money to properly
Audit,
run
manage.
it, to be a trustee. Massive step.
Yeah, massive. But people just walk into it as though, oh, I'll get better returns. And it's as simple as that.
I'll be
but it's
in
not.
control.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I absolutely agree with you. It's the literacy around this that's the problem. The products are all essentially fine in and of themselves. It's just not all of us really understand how that money becomes real in our world day to day, right?
Yes.
And self-managed super funds, a lot of people can lose money, particularly when markets are a bit topsy-trumpy like they've been.
Well, because it allows you to 100% indulge your investment personality, which in that situation is probably pure fear, right? And this is the classic private investor mistake, selling at the bottom, when the discomfort has become too much to handle, and then buying back at the top because, everyone's buying again now. And look, isn't the market a happy place to be? And you know what you've done? You've missed the recovery.
Yeah, exactly.
You've crystallised your losses.
And that's what a lot of people don't necessarily understand about the gift of superannuation, which again should be just called free money. Yeah. Because it is a very tax sheltered way to earn an income after your salary stops, is really kind of what it is.
It's absolute gold. Yeah.
And let's say you're in one of the many retail or industry funds.
Super funds, yeah.
You are having your money managed by experts.
Correct.
And the returns, I had a quick look at Super Ratings returns year to date, and they're sitting around 8%.
It's pretty good.
Which, given this kind of
that's
volatile
right.
We've had a
ride,
phenomenal rebound from the Trump
Extraordinary.
turmoil. It's not over yet. It's going to be a wild ride. But, you don't even have to outsource your superannuation to experts. You can also just invest through your fund in index trackers.
And can you explain what that means in real language?
Yeah. So you're on the roller coaster.
Yeah.
Right? You're on the roller coaster. There's no one trying to second guess and be better than that roller coaster. However, you are going to get the returns of the market. And if you stay the course long term, those returns
That's
should
right.
be really good. And what you do by doing that is that you massively cut your fees. And we do know that fees are a big eroder or impediment to the returns that you're ultimately going to get as well.
right.
So there's a real kind of argument for core and satellite, it's called, which I guess makes sense, like that stable bit of your portfolio
Yep.
and then a bit of playing around the edges.
Okay. And you've got to obviously have a decent enough balance to be able to
Yeah,
do that.
But you are in a collective investment.
Yeah, okay.
By God, these words.
I know.
That means that you're pooling your money with other people. So you can do a lot more with less in
Yeah,
these
that's
kind
right.
of
And that's the gift
schemes
of
and
our,
funds.
whether we're in an industry or a retail fund, and that's just the fancy word for the brand name of your fund. Some of them are technically industry funds that came out of the union
that are
movement.
not for profit.
That's right.
Which are retail.
Yeah, yeah. No,
Because anybody can buy.
correct. And we've got choice now, so we can move our super really easily. I think 30 years ago, before super policy was set, you were only ever with the fund.
No, that's right. And now, you've
you
got the
can
Your
choose.
Super tool on the ATO website, which is a fantastic way. You just go in through MyGov and it will bring up what
That's
your super
right.
fund is, your returns, and you can choose, say, 4 alternatives.
Yeah, and
Give those
that's a
bit of
much
look.
better option to do that than to click on one of the social media ads getting them to compare your super.
As with anything, go directly to the source and
Yeah.
do that search yourself, not
Yeah,
because it's been
totally.
And I think-
laid in your lap.
Underlying the idea of your money growing in super, I think to kind of pull it back really to basics is to remind ourselves if our money's in a retail or an industry fund, which most people's is, you set your settings, you choose your settings. So if you don't, your fund will default you probably to balanced. But
Which
even,
means about 70 to 80% invested in growth assets like the share market, just to clarify.
yeah.
Yep.
So there's your default. But let's say you, I don't know, 51, and chances are, and we'll talk longevity, I'm sure, chances are as a female, you're going to make it through to about 92.
Yep.
So you can start to have a look at where your default is and think, well, you know what, I think I could move to there, or part of what I'm doing I can move.
Yeah.
And you're in control. So you've got the best investment people that Australia's
right.
produced looking after it, but you're saying, okay, guys, now
I
work
want
my
this.
money harder.
Yeah, so it's a bit
And-
like the equivalent of the way we might allocate our grocery budget each week. You can go to Woolies, you can go to Coles, you can go to Aldi, you can go to your fresh fruit and veg or your butcher, and the super funds actually let you decide which bits do I want high growth, do I want property, do I want cash, do I want, and all these things don't really mean much in the tangible world of getting money. But you can actually have a lot more in the end, which is very tangible once you've reached preservation age. And that's the bit that I think it's very hard to make the mental leap towards.
But I think put your super fund on the spot.
I agree.
Ring them up, old-fashioned, but
Yeah.
why not?
And most of them are good with that, right?
A lot of them will give you a free appointment.
Correct.
And ask dumb questions. Just say,
Correct.
what is my investment setting? I'm this old. They won't give you advice.
They won't
You
give
don't
you
want them
personalised
to.
advice.
No.
Yep.
But they can talk broadly about where you're at, how long it's going
That's
to
right.
last, and the numbers that you need to educate yourself and become stronger.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Now, I wanted to ask you, Kay, because you're here as a guest of Household Capital, and there's this thing we've got in Australia called very expensive homes. And it's the reason why, older people do have mortgages is because our property market is the second most expensive in all the world. Only
Oh, wow.
Hong Kong is
Wow.
more expensive
Well
than Australia.
done us.
Yeah. Well, is it or is it
It's a
just...
dubious honour.
Yeah, I was going to say.
No.
Is it or not? Is kind of the question, because it's widened the gap between the haves and have-nots, right? Yeah. So I guess my question is, what role does your own home play in your retirement planning? Because it's a big one.
It's huge. So again, to bring it back, I talk about 5 pillars of retirement income. So age pension will underpin most people. Super will top it up beautifully for most people who've even got a semi-modest amount. Private savings are part of that picture. Some people won't have. work. We forget many people work beyond retirement age, whatever that is, age pension age.
Exactly.
And that's a particular kind of aspect and has a lot of rules, of course. But the home.
Yeah.
So a median priced home is around the $1 million mark. I used to quote 920. You live in Sydney.
It's outrageous.
You've just made a bunch of people cry.
I know, different universe in the cap cities, but median is nearly $1 million now, which is about 4 times what the median super is. So there's a comparison. If you have your home, you have gold for retirement.
That's right.
But to be slightly more pragmatic in my life, I'm being pragmatic, not about money, but about our emotional needs for security, for caring for people as we age, as aged care comes on the horizon. 95% of us will take a home care package,
That's right.
not go into residential.
No one wants to go into residential aged care.
Not really.
No one willingly goes,
No.
take me here.
So if you've got a home and if you've got some super and if you're able to get your hands on your equity, if you haven't got spare cash, then you can retrofit your home and live there until, as many people do, they're 102 or something.
Absolutely.
So it's a good story.
It is a good story, but it's not for the people who are locked out, right? So for people who, and I have many friends, girlfriends in this position, single parents who've, got no super, or the super was wiped out during COVID, for example, still don't own a property, rents are now way higher. These people may have a tiny super balance, but what are they going to do is kind of the question. And one of the other scary stats around women being behind the super 8 ball is also that women in their 50s are the most at-risk age group of being homeless.
Yeah.
Like that scares all of us. It's a horrible statistic.
It's fact of life.
Yeah, well, it is. And that's why women need to really understand that interplay between super, owning a home and so forth. Now, one of the things we did at Citro was we created a retirement locations guide, which wasn't just about moving to swanky Noosa or, Kiama or one of those, or Byron Bay, one of those really expensive places. Definitely had some of those locations in there, but it was also about finding really affordable locations, which admittedly won't have the same infrastructure as a city, but if you retire with a balance of, say, $500,000, which is not out of the question once women are in their mid-60s, even if it's relatively low, if you can find a property to buy as you flip to retirement, you will then qualify for the age pension and so on. And so, Nick, I wanted to ask you a little bit about that because you are like the mortgage guru. She loves being mortgage-free, except when you're going into retirement and you reach the age of 50. Talk about what a mortgage means to women in their 50s now.
Yeah, look, a mortgage is not necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are striving to pay down that mortgage.
Yeah.
Having that money in the housing carries this benefit of meaning that you are much more able to qualify for the age pension. Correct. Whereas if you had that money instead in superannuation, that would theoretically cut your pension, right? So there is, some advantages of that. Absolutely, having that roof paid off over your head is a goal, whether it's one that you are going to be able to achieve or not. It's one to strive for. Yeah. But there is a problem, though, with completely paying off a mortgage.
Yeah. Talk about that because I don't think many people understand that.
Yeah. Here's a little wrinkle. So once you hit 50, you are going to really struggle to get a loan.
Yeah.
So while debt is bad, and I'm not going to ever say anything else, you might want to just keep it ticking away. If you can have it actually net, so the debt doesn't have anything owing, however, it's still there in the background.
As a redraw. So that's what you're talking about,
Yeah,
right?
not
It's
a redraw because redraws are particularly nasty and dangerous.
Okay.
But in an offset account, an offset account that is beneficially yours, that you have complete unfettered access to, that the bank can't freeze on you for any particular circumstance that they see fit, which has happened
Definitely
in the past.
does happen.
So an offset account filled up. So essentially you've got your loan paid off, right? I would recommend keeping it there.
And
Not
banks do
discharging that mortgage, because that's your full flexibility for any kind of
Health
life
emergency.
flip. I call it your holy shit fund for when shit goes wrong, because, bad stuff
It
happens
does.
to good people.
It does.
Just that money there so that this doesn't sort of derail your financial plan, your well-laid plans for this beautiful, comfortable retirement when you actually need $10,000 because, you've got a shortfall in a knee surgery that's really impeding your quality of life or
that's
whatever
right.
the situation
That's
is.
right. And I guess you are a massive advocate, A, for being mortgage-free, but holding on to your morttage, so you've got the access to those
Just
funds
the
if you need them.
flexibility, just in case.
But you're also a massive advocate for private health insurance, which is an increasing cost, and there's a lot of issues with it. But I guess I'd love for you to talk about why private health insurance is such an important expense to keep budgeting for.
Yeah. I mean, it's a huge part, and everyone's going through their finances with a razor right now because the cost of living crisis has just been so acute. I would say that private health insurance is priceless, particularly as you age, because just by the nature of that, you're going to be calling on it more, right? So the time to drop it is not when you've paid all your premiums and not perhaps had the benefit of that. That's when you want to hold on and really get back in premiums. There's also ways to work the system. Like, for example, I pay nothing effectively for my private health insurance because I claim so much on it. There's ways of working the system. Make sure you dial down that cover so that you're not paying for things that you don't need.
Yeah.
Make sure you up your excess, which again is going to dial down the cost. Look at a co-payment if you think you'd be able to, cover like $50 a night per hospital, meet the health fund halfway or not even halfway, just a little bit of the way. There's all sorts of ways of cutting the cost.
Okay.
And claim on every single penny you can, your chiro, your osteo, your physio, your exercise physiology supervised. There's all sorts of ways of getting that to pay for itself, and just think about keeping it.
Yeah. What's your view on that? Okay.
I'm, again, really supportive of that. I mean, what do we want in retirement or later life? Independence and choice.
Yep.
How do we keep independence? By keeping our health. And, okay, we're talking a lot about money, but physical health is
wealth. That's the real
Health is wealth.
None of it
Health is
matters if you're immobile at home and not having a good time. So for me, my private health insurance, which is expensive, my God. And then every year they seem to get a green light to put it up far too much.
Yes,
far,
absolutely.
Far too much. But mine pays for Pilates,
that's
preventative health checks and so
to
on.
just keep you more agile for longer. And I guess the other thing to factor in, when we're forecasting ahead to this and people are maybe groaning about, oh God, do I have to be paying premiums into my 60s and 70s? Don't forget that your need for your other insurances mostly completely disappears because you're post-retirement. So your life insurance, you probably want to just flick because you've got your superannuation anyway, and your kids are maybe going to get something unless you spend it all. Your income protection insurance, no, that goes too. So all these other expenses that you've had, you don't have. The private health is the one to really value.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting thing that we don't often talk about with retirement planning.
Yeah.
We just see it as an expensive cost, and we've got Medicare, but you don't want to be having a sore knee and waiting 3 years for a knee
Those
replacement.
elective surgery waiting lists, knee replacements.
And you can
2
Google
years.
them, right? You can Google these elective surgery waiting lists and be very afraid.
It's
There's
not the
actually
life
a
you want.
map online which shows you the waiting time all around Australia. So
exactly.
maybe you move to one of the 10 top destinations.
That's exactly right. And this is part of retirement literacy, right? Is understanding all the levers that you can pull for your individual wish.
Yeah.
Because retirement, I believe in financial retirement, but I don't believe many of us are just going to retire from life, right? We're not going to sit and play lawn bowls like our grandparents did.
Well, there's more to retirement than money.
That's exactly right. But money is a necessity.
No, it is, absolutely.
You have to understand the balance. And
absolutely.
when you're earning a wage, it's just really easy to just spend it every week. And all of us know that the more you earn, the more you spend.
Yeah, well, that seems
amazing.
to happen. But I think also the concept, which is probably quite an old one now, but, that day of retirement, the gold watch, this, whatever, that moment, that turning point. And I think, you know what, the best training or planning for retirement is to work on having a really good life now.
That's right.
To use terminology close to yours, Nick, get your shit together now. Do your meditation now.
Yeah.
Think about, the giving and the volunteering. Don't wait till you've retired
right.
to start
Don't.
putting
Living.
together a life.
Don't be defined by work.
Yeah.
Because that's a really dangerous thing, and it's certainly not the way to prepare yourself for when you move beyond work.
And then you can truly transition because things have started, things are in motion, and you can roll along and do more of this and less of that. So there's a very nice segue there, I think, rather than, oh my God, I hate my job, I have to pay off my mortgage, I can't wait till I'm 62 and then I'm going to grab that
absolutely.
super. That's quite lurching from one thing to another.
And this has been why men typically don't retire well, because commonly it's men see themselves as a provider and they're like, oh, excellent, now I can retire, I can go fishing or whatever they've been dreaming of. But actually there's no status, there's no purpose.
Their network has collapsed.
And it is about more than that. It is about purpose and where we all want to go.
Purpose and personal connections, you know, building that back up again so that you have a framework for your weeks and the people to see.
That's exactly
And the
things to
worst
do.
that will happen is you'll have a better life now while you're aiming for
Yeah,
retirement.
that's
And
right.
the point
Yeah.
is, most of us are too scared to do that, because if we have a mortgage, we think we've got to pay it off. Or if we don't have enough super, we think we've got to contribute more. And there's this worry that we'll never have enough. But enough is also things like health and also things like purpose.
Yeah.
And enough, there is a safety net of an age pension.
Yeah, that's right.
There is super that will layer on top
right.
of that. If you're lucky enough to have a house partly paid off, fully paid off, whatever, you can get your hands on that equity.
That's right.
There are these pieces that come together, and
And what are so we did talk a little bit about account-based pensions, age pensions and all those confusing, horrible terms, but there are a lot of new financial products now for people who do have a property. And I know, Nick, you wrote for Citro about this as well. Can you talk us through those things?
Were you talking about the reverse mortgage?
Yeah, reverse
here?
mortgage, the housing equity access scheme.
Yes.
And there's others. New products are being developed all the time, right?
That's right. So essentially what these let you do is tap into the money that's tied up in your house, because there's no point living in, rattling around in a big house if you can't afford to turn the heating on in that house.
That's right.
Or leave it, because
fix the roof.
that's not the dream,
Yeah.
So there's all sorts of ways that you can actually tap into the equity in your house and still stay in your house, which may be what you choose and want to do.
Exactly.
Anyway, so these are things where you take out a mortgage just like you would ordinarily, except you make no payments on that mortgage.
Sounds like a dream.
Yeah, I know, right? I
Why
know.
don't they give you that when you're 21?
And the catch is that debt rolls up, of course, because you're adding to it each time that you don't make a repayment.
That's right.
You can repay it at any time you want in the future. It will roll up and, I guess, start to swallow up some of the value
That's
of that
right.
home. So there's absolutely inheritance considerations if you want to leave.
Because you have to pay the debt when you're dead.
When you're dead, if you don't sell earlier than that. However, if your house is going like this and you've got a debt on it going like that, then that's also fine.
Yeah.
There might be a margin there still to give your kids. And, I would argue that they should want you to have a good quality of life.
No, and I'm sure most kids do.
And one of the big reasons people take out reverse mortgages is to give money to their kids.
And this is another big issue with retirement planning now, right? Because our property prices are so expensive, if we have kids, the bank of mum and dad is something ridiculous, like the 5th biggest lender in the country.
Yeah.
And it makes more sense to get them into a property while you're still alive than to leave them something when you're dead.
When
they'll
they
be
don't need it,
65,
basically, when it's, kind of
Yeah.
too late. Yeah, I mean, we've got this, 5 trillion plus intergenerational wealth transfer.
That's right.
That is happening in the next couple of decades that is basically being brought forward because, parents are watching their kids
That's right.
really struggle with these house prices.
And the interesting thing about the intergenerational wealth issue, which again is another horrible term. It's really waiting for your parents to die is what that means. But women are actually going to be some of the big beneficiaries of intergenerational wealth, which is so rare in money markets that women are going to do better.
Oh, look, the future is not bleak. The future is amazing.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. And, women do live longer and all these other benefits that we have. We just need to sort of dial up the literacy, I think, around the planning and engaging with money, because most of us just want to spend it on fun things and not be thinking about what we might want to spend it on when we're 75, because you still want it to be fun then.
I talk to my kids all the time about future you, like they're little, so I use it in relation to food a lot. It's like, do you really want to have that other piece of brownie right now? Because, think of future you, there'll be no brownie left. And my daughter says to me, she's all over this, she goes, I hate future me. Future me takes things from now me.
Wow. She's worked out how to backcheck you.
You adopt the mindset that works for you, but you do want some brownie left at the end. That's the bottom line.
That's hilarious. So my daughter, age 36, living in London, has an e-newsletter called Future You.
Oh, there you go.
Which is about self-development.
And that wasn't even a setup. There you go.
And because she's 36, maybe she worked her way from where your daughter is.
Maybe. So there's hope.
The wheel has turned. So what would future you look like in retirement?
Yeah.
Pardon me, I think it would be arming yourself with knowledge.
Yeah.
Knowledge is always power, and
exactly.
And increasing your own literacy with tools that are available now.
Yeah. Oh, play with the tools.
Money Smart,
just play with the
columns,
tools. See where you're going to land.
Citro, whatever. The information's there. I read it every week because I like to keep up to date.
Yeah.
So we can all do this.
Because the other thing to realise is that there are ways of getting extra money into super that don't cost a thing don't cost you as much.
And can you talk about that? Because as we get to 50, and if we do have a below average balance, you've still got a lot of time to catch up.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But it's a very confusing thing to embrace. Even people like me who can read a spreadsheet go, oh, that makes my brain hurt. Can you give us the rundown on how to boost your super?
A couple of things you should be doing. Like if you earn under about $62,000 a year, if you pay in $1,000 to super after tax, the government will throw in $500 for your trouble.
Yep.
That's a 50% instant return, which is possible nowhere.
Yeah, that's right.
You should be doing that year after year.
That's free money.
That's a no-brainer. That is free money.
But only for people who earn less than $62,000 in a taxable.
That's right. Yeah. Yes, that's right. You do have to be earning in some capacity to take that opportunity up as well. But then there's also the spouse contribution if you are in a partnership where they can put in $3,000 for you to like equalise the balances of perhaps a woman who's raised children, more than a man who's been working. They can throw in that money and they will get a $540 tax offset. Now that is a straight tax discount for the family. Yep. And that's again, year after year after year. Free money. So that, you do these things and you sort of start to make this virtuous super circle where you're topping it up for free or for less each and every year. And that's going to see your balance dramatically bigger in retirement.
But also salary increases, do you just take that money and go, whoa, let's spend it? Or do you make it salary sacrifice?
Because there's the key message that's missing in this term salary sacrifice is that that's free money as well. So what you do when you salary sacrifice is that you swap out your marginal tax rate, which might be as high with the Medicare levy as 47%. You're losing half your money, right? Mm-hmm. Just handing it over. And you swap it for a 15% tax rate in superannuation. So by agreeing to that, you get a lot more in super than you would get in your hand. Future you.
Yeah, that's right.
Like she's a happy person.
And she's getting free money just through tax equalisation and a bit of, understanding all these horrible words that none of us really like.
A bit of voodoo, but it works. Trust us.
But you can, because you don't have to be your own financial planner, because a financial planner needs to really understand tax law and fiduciary responsibilities and
all those confusing things.
You can ring your super fund.
Yeah.
You
and
can
get the
say,
general advice.
I think I understand what I'm doing, but I'm going to get a salary increase. What are the ways I can use that generally speaking.
Yeah, and they will give you good advice.
And there you go. So it's scary out there, and I think enlisting the help of people who are being paid by your fees
that's right.
to help you.
That's right.
But also using government websites and assistance.
And there's another really great tool put out by Mercer. It's super complex. I think you wrote something on it.
I did, yeah.
And it's like the most layered retirement planning tool
you can put in every factor.
Yeah, you might
talking about
Google it.
those cookie cutter one size fits all retirement spend. This thing lets you specify everything. Yeah. It's really, really powerful.
It's very granular, and you do have to geek out on it. And I wouldn't recommend going first to that calculator. I'd recommend going to Money Smart first to start getting your ballparks.
Yeah.
So also for people, I think whether you're age 50 or 55, I think it's super important for you to understand, will you be likely to get an age pension as you move into retirement, or will you not? Free calculator, a company called Retirement Essentials, you punch in your numbers.
They're good. They're a good source of information.
Really good. You can see in a heartbeat, are you likely to get one or are you not? Do it.
Yeah.
You know,
and there's another great retirement calculator I just came across this morning, and it was how much has your being out of the workforce cost you? And how much
that's on the industry super funds.
There's a couple
time
of them.
out from the workforce.
So you
There's
can do
one
calculations
there.
on that.
Yes, so that's
to work out
those breaks to have children.
And that, again, for the female who's aged 50 to 60, a lot of women take time out to care for older relatives.
The sandwich generation is real.
Tell me. And it's really important, not that I think people will go, oh, well, I won't do that, but for them to start thinking about, oh, that's a bit of a gap. How do I make that up?
Yeah, that's right.
If they're partnered, maybe they will talk about their husband contributing to their super.
No, I think that's pretty fair if you're partnered.
And don't forget that, where there are circumstances like that where you do have the available cash, or perhaps where you've sold an asset.
That's right.
You can put money into super with that 15% tax, that free kind of tax discounted money, shelter some capital gains in there, and so save tax on that as well. And you can do that and mop up to 5 years back of unused allowances. And that's a really good opportunity too to kind of really get that dramatic boost. Yeah, it's voodoo.
What would you Google to try and work that out for yourself?
Okay.
What's the term you need?
Okay, here's the geek out. Concessional contributions, mop up contributions. Yeah, carry forward contributions it is. So right now you could put in $137,500 into super before the end of this tax year.
Okay.
And that would be okay.
Of course.
If you have it. Yeah, if you have it.
But the advantage of doing that, and this is sort of what we need to explain, which is the voodoo of super, if you put $137,000 into your super today, how does that make you much richer tomorrow? Can you explain the benefits of that?
Well, you save a whole bunch of tax right now. Yep. So it helps you now, today me, and also future you dramatically. Because, of course, the earlier you put money into super, the more it has time to grow.
So if the returns last year were for pension funds around up to 13%, and year to date at the moment they're looking about 8%. That's really good earning year on year. And that's another thing I think about when people get into retirement. They've passed age preservation age. They've accessed their super by paying themselves a salary from their super savings. So it's moved into drawdown mode or spending mode. I think a lot of people think, well, let's say they had 200,000 in super. Oh, I'm drawing down X per year, 20,000 a year. In 10 years, it'll be exhausted. It'll be gone. Yeah. And they forget that super continues to earn and increase. Yeah. And the first year they've drawn down, say, 20, but there's 180 there growing. Yeah. And I think that's the magic of our super system. Yes. That's where it works really well. So we're not draining the swamp, to use ugly words. Yeah. We're drawing down carefully on something that will continue to grow.
That's right. And the big bonus is you get money for not working. Like that's
Yeah.
really what super does, right? It gives you money without
or you
having
add
to work
it
for
to work income, so the
right.
work bonus is
And the work test is really interesting now because it's much more generous than it used to be. People used to get penalised if they worked and they were on a government age pension. But now the government's really trying to encourage that. There's still rules.
It's better. So it's sitting at around 12,000 a year before your age pension is affected. There's a group of people, myself included, who would take the income test out of the age pension means test and leave it as an assets test because we keep saying we want older people in the workforce, the richness of their knowledge, you know. And then if they earn more than 12K, we start reducing the pension.
Right.
It makes little sense.
Incentive
Yeah.
is what you're saying.
Well, I would like to see work income expanded. Income generally, that's arguable, but an enormous amount of people will continue to work, and it gets messy trying to figure out whether you've gone over the threshold or not if it's project work. So you might be Santa Claus for 4 weeks a year and you've earned too much in that. So Centrelink is not your friend at that time.
But Services Australia do actually have a free financial advice hotline that people can ring.
And they do seminars.
Yeah, and they're all free. So, you know, you don't have to pay for them. Why we were talking before about financial advice being a bit of a dirty word is that the previous incarnations of financial advice, many financial advisors exploited what was called trailing commissions, and that's now a no-no. They're not allowed to do that anymore. And that's why Australians now have to pay for personalised financial advice, which is considerably expensive if you realise it's 3 to 5K a year, and sometimes you might want to review that.
Well, there's a range because there are companies who are charging 500. Right?
Yeah, that's
so,
this is true.
And that's really another awful term, episodic advice. But that's like a needs-based advice. Do I pay off the mortgage or do I leave it in super? That's an arrangement where you can get good advice for a lower amount of money. The 5K, 6K thing is more a kind of whole life plan. Yes. And you know what? If you're in retirement for 30 years, I think I'd rather touch base with the advice I need as you talked about your spending changes and your needs change and you can no longer live in your home. So that's an advice moment.
And the other thing I wanted to touch on was the downsizer bonus, which is another little handy piece of government voodoo. I know you've written about this, Nicole, so describe what that is and what that means. It's for people who own or have a partly paid off home.
Yes, that's right. So really interesting opportunity, only like really new opportunity. Yep. So what you can do is you can sell a home that you've owned for 10 years at least, and you can shelter $300,000 of those proceeds into your super fund. Now, if there's two owners of that home, you can shelter $600,000 of those into your super fund. And of course, that means that you can access you can start a pension stream, you can have tax-free earnings, you can then draw that money tax-free. There's all sorts of advantages to doing that if it's time to kind of swap your home for something that is smaller.
Yeah, and let's talk about that transition to retirement piece, which used to be more generous than it is today. Yeah. But maybe, Kaye, you can explain what this transition to retirement.
So just to come back on downsizer, be aware if your assets are too high, you may not get a pension.
That's right.
Advice, you probably need to seek that. Interestingly,
because the family home is, of course, exempt from the asset test. So what you're doing is you're converting that into superannuation where it won't be exempt.
Yeah,
so, of course, the government's rationale in doing this is to unlock the housing.
Yeah, that's
to try and spread it around. So.
And the research goes against the government's strong desire because 85% of people, and this has come up time and time again, want to retire in their own home.
That's
they
right.
don't
Yeah.
want to downsize. They don't want to move here or there or see change or whatever. They like their community. They like their local healthcare services. So they want to be where they are, which takes us back to home equity. Moving across to
Transition
the
to
question
retirement.
you actually asked me.
Yeah, these are just some of the things that you can Google if you think they might be applicable to you, right? Downsizer bonus is there. Transition to retirement. I know it used to be a lot more generous than it is today, but can you explain what that is and what that means?
The thinking was a while back that we needed more older people in the workforce. Good. Therefore, it was starting age 55 to allow people to access super before super access age preservation age. And as long as they worked part-time at least, they could get their hands on some super.
Yeah.
And now age preservation age, generally speaking, is 60.
Yep.
So it now applies to 60 to 64-year-olds. I love the idea of transitioning as an emotional, practical tool to step. I was thinking about this earlier today. A lot of us want to step back.
Yep.
A lot of us would like to step back up when we can, and this is flexible. Most of us don't want to step out
That's
forever.
Right. That's exactly
so this is a very flexible way of accessing super, but you can still put money into it, which sounds a bit crazy.
It is a really perverse, weird thing to get your head around.
let's say you're working full time and you're earning $80,000. And your daughter's had a baby and you want to be a grandma. A lot of my friends are doing this thing right now. And you don't want to give up work, but you want to go back to 3 days. But you need 5 days work to live off. Yeah. So you can access your super, you can do the part-time thing and enjoy the life that you're aiming for. Now, all bets are off when you're 65 because the rules change again and that particular strategy is not useful. Because it's changed, I think, Alex, again, you need the support of someone who really understands tax rules, like an advisor or your accountant, to talk to that thing.
That's right.
Because there may be other ways that you're going to step back a little bit.
That's right.
That are better for you.
And let's talk a little bit about the personal financial advice conundrum and the expense of it. And I'm pretty sure the market will shift and evolve over the next 5 years. We'll find some better solutions.
It is.
But right now it is, especially for women who aren't maybe as financially literate as other groups in society are, the whole idea of paying thousands of dollars for something that isn't a shoe or handbag is like, why would I do that? And I'm not, I know, but I am one of those people. I'm like, why would I be paying this guy how much? And you don't understand that actually it's an investment in the same way buying a house is an investment.
And look, when you were talking about trailing commissions before, the fact of that, it was hidden. It was in the background.
That's
but
right.
They would have amounted to far more than $3,000 or $5,000. So
Correct.
They were depressing your funds year after year
exactly
with
right.
these high fees. So it is actually something that's well worthwhile doing potentially.
Yeah.
And cheaper.
But interview people. Look at the. I think there's a much greater range. In fact, I know there's a much greater range of advice right now, and some companies will use digital tools.
That's right.
And that's bringing the price down. Do you want whole of life advice? Talk to the person offering it and ask them what the value in it for you is, given your savings.
That's right.
What percentage of your savings does that
And
represent?
if they have what's called an AFSL, which is the Australian Financial Services Licence, they absolutely are obliged to not charge you more than they can deliver for you.
And
will
if
tell
they
you
haven't
that.
got one, don't talk to them.
Don't stop, hang up the phone.
So that's a deal breaker. So I think, look, women are coming off generations of perhaps not being feisty enough and saying, hello, man in suit, what can you do for me? What will it cost me? What am I getting out of this conversation?
Yeah.
And I would like to think we're raising daughters
who
just go, yep.
Trying.
How does it work?
Trying.
How does that work?
Yeah, and I think that's a really important point. Now we're going to move to my little 2 choices questions. This is where we go to wrap up, and I give each of you 2 choices and you just tell me the one that you like. I'm going to start with you, Nick. I want to know what you think is more valuable, time or money?
Time. Because time makes more money.
Oh,
The
Of course
earlier,
you'd say that.
the earlier you start investing, the more time it has to grow. That is the magic of the, 8th wonder of the world, compounding.
Okay. Spender or saver?
Save.
I knew you'd say that. I would say stinger. And if you follow,
I know, moderation, not deprivation.
no,
though.
I agree. But if you
the
follow,
life's got to be good now.
if you follow Nicole on Instagram, she does share all her saving tips, and they are very practical and useful. Okay, risk taker or risk averse?
Risk averse. But targeting retirement, you do have to take a certain amount of risk because you do want that money to grow.
Yeah.
You do want to invest it in shares and in those growth assets.
Now, what about credit card or buy now, pay later?
Oh, God. Credit cards, which I know is probably really controversial and not what you expected me to say, but credit card, pay off the balance in full every single month and get the points and travel for free.
yeah.
And the free travel insurance.
And in a partner, what matters more, love or laughter?
Laughter?
It's a really hard one.
I don't know.
It's a really hard one.
Well, money match as well as funny match, put it that way.
Oh, okay. Money match and funny match. Very good.
It's got to be both.
Okay, Kay, here comes yours. Win lotto or win friends?
Friends.
Okay.
Easy, that was.
Yeah. Luxury holiday once a year or a budget holiday 4 times a year?
2 budget, 1 luxury.
Okay.
Use the money.
Yeah, no, totally. $1 million now or $100,000 a year for the rest of your life?
Well, I'm planning on a long life, so I'll go 100K a year.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And no debt, low assets, or some debt, more assets?
Some debt, more assets.
Okay. Legacy for family or lifestyle for self?
Love for family. Not the
You
right
don't need the
answer,
money.
but it's I don't like the word lifestyle. It sounds fake to me.
Yeah.
Love, connection, doing good work.
Exactly. I
Being
think
useful.
that's great.
Yeah.
So on that note, we're going to wrap up this conversation. Thank you, ladies. That's it. Another episode of Citro's Midlife Shift. Subscribe for more. Thanks.